Okay, we're here. As you can tell, nothing surprises us. Almost had to leave the meeting. Hey, good evening, everybody. Captain Ron here with Eric, and who are you guys? Dieter, and our favorite flight attendant, Diane, and we got our favorite 777 captain here. We like to throw out a few heavy airs there. A big iron driver, as we call him. Nat Fuqua, good friend of mine and Eric's, and God, how long have we known each other? Way too long.
This long.
He used to, when I taught human factors, Nat came into the group the second year, and he not unlike tonight, he looks so damn young. We used to joke that he would come up there and he said, "Yeah, I was in junior high at a high school or at a career day, and Ron came in and recruited me because so that's kind of what we did." But you're not in junior high anymore, that's for sure. Not with that gray hair.
This is platinum blonde.
Yeah. So anyway. But we got him on board tonight because we're going to talk about overwater flying in a real mission, a real flight that Nat is flying regularly, and talk about the details there. Because I know occasionally we get some of you who are worried about landing in the water, should you have to do that. But we're not gonna. You're gonna feel a lot better about that after tonight, hopefully. So let me run through a couple of our first slides there. And okay, so this is, as I said, Fearless Flight Live, our weekly live show on Facebook for anybody who's afraid to fly, anybody who knows somebody's afraid to fly, or people who just want to hang out and listen to us talk about aviation. And we do have our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather Facebook group, and we encourage you. We're up over 1,000 people. Thank you very much for all of you who have joined and for all of you who participate. I looked at the stats the other day, and not only do we have a lot of people, but we have a lot of participation. It's a great place for you to go to pick up on, give some help to people, get some help from people, and just lend your support there. I'm going to talk about a 50-minute coaching session that I had just Friday and what the outcome was. We got Nat here that we're going to listen to, and we got a couple of highlights on the 301 class, which is the next one is coming up on June 11th. And as always, if we've got anybody with questions or comments, we want to do that as well. So the first thing is I had a 50-minute coaching session on Friday with a fella. We'll just call him Jay, and typically he had 4 days. He had driven to Florida from Houston. Of course, before I could accuse him of chickening out on a flight, he said, no, we got a youngster, and when we go packing, it would have cost us a fortune to put it all in the airplane. So they were down there over the weekend, and he was getting nervous about his flight, which was just today. He flew this morning for work, I believe it was. And so we did a 15-minute coaching thing. And whenever we get within 7 days of a person's flight, pretty much all we can do is like recommend the Fearless Flight Harmonizer and maybe a coaching session. But he didn't have any time because he was going to drive back from Florida to Houston yesterday and get on the airplane today. So I copied down the texting thing, which was kind of cute. And I'll show you what that ended up to be. If I can find my presentation again. Nat, you hit it on me. Okay. All right. Here we go. So I gotta fast forward. This is harder than working your job, let me tell you. You should be so lucky. All right. So you can see that slide, right, guys?
Yes, we do.
Okay, cool. So this is Jay. He said, "Hey, Ron, just wanted to say thank you for the quick talk this morning, and because this was later on, it really did help already with the anxiety to know that someone is out there that understands it's a real fear." And that's probably the most often comment that we get from people when they come in contact with any of us on the team here is that they're really surprised that somebody really knows what it's like to be out there running around afraid to fly. And he said, I also want to point out, too, that a big part of his fear was his little girl, just not being able to see her grow up. And the worst part, where my mind takes me, is her not understanding one day why dad didn't come home and because he couldn't make the flight or something. But after our talk, it made me feel a lot more comfortable. And then right after that, he said, hey, Ron, or it was last night. He said, hey, Ron, any advice to help me calm down? I'm getting pretty worked up about my flight tomorrow. And I just told him, I said, you know, it's likely going to be difficult given that you haven't had much time to learn or practice any new coping skills and techniques. And I said, I noticed you purchased the Fearless Flight Kit. Have you had a chance to download it onto your phone using the Zenler app, which many of you know now? We've got an app that makes it a lot more convenient to get it, look at it, stream it, and load it onto your phone, so you got it with you when you're in the airplane mode. And I told him to get the flight harmonizer at least downloaded onto his phone so he could listen to it before bed if he wasn't already in bed, in the morning when he got up today. And then take it and just keep looping that sucker all the way. I think he had to go to LA, and that's the best strategy. And I said, so what's one thought that keeps popping into your head? We're looking for a trigger, and he just said, it's mainly that I'm not going to make it home, which is kind of a morbid thought, you know. But you know, if you have thoughts like that, your body's got no choice. It's going to respond as if it's a real threat. Okay. And so I told him, I said, is the flight today? You need a quick phone call, or are you in the air? Turns out he was in the air. And the next thing I know, I get another text from him. He says, I was in the air. We just landed. It was a smooth flight. Listened to the harmonizer the whole time and actually fell asleep for 30 to 40 minutes. And people absolutely don't believe that, but that's what happens to a lot of people. Just having something new and interesting and different and diverse from what your little voice is saying in your head. And so the harmonizer helps people to get distracted a lot. So I told him, get out of here. You know where to reach me if you need to, and way to kick ass. And then today, okay, so now he's thinking about going back tomorrow afternoon. Guess what? The thoughts come back. And I just said, you know, and he mentioned, you know, is there a way I can stay calm, you know? And I said, staying calm is elusive. It's, you know, believe it or not, that's not our goal. Our goal is to get your hijack back under your attention, back under your control once it gets hijacked. And a more attainable goal is to first acknowledge that, you know, there's that frickin' thought again, whatever it is, I'm not going to make it home or whatever. And I've been here before, and this is where I help people educate themselves and learn mindful techniques to regain control over your attention. It's a lack of being able to control your attention and put it where you want it. And so right now, I said, you know, no more time and energy than you've had to practice other coping skills. The best bet is to put the harmonizer on, crank up the volume, and tell your negative inner voice to F off, because that's the way you're going to get your attention back. And as long as whatever trigger hijacked your attention is controlling your mind, you're going to be less than calm. And he said, yeah, that helps. So we'll hear tomorrow how he did, and I expect him to do just as well as he did before. So with that, let's speaking about hijacking your attention, let's bring in good old Natsky, Captain Nat, and talk about about that. So flying over water, people, one of the biggest questions is, people ask me all the time, said, aren't you afraid, Ron? You know, it doesn't matter where, but over water is one of the big ones, right? Because when you're flying over a big expanse of water, you know, the obvious thing your brain says is, what? Yeah. So you ever get afraid to fly over the water? Like you have this, oh my God, we could end up in the drink.
Typically not.
Yeah.
Typically,
because if you do,
yeah,
it's all over, right? Yeah.
Everyone can let their mind run away at various times, of course, if you want to do that. But we focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
And there's specific tactics we use to stay aware of where we might take the airplane should an emergency occur, and we stay acutely aware of those tactics. Flying over water for hours and hours, I've never been more alert doing that than I ever have.
Yeah.
Because over land, there's so many options, and you're taken care of with radar. But over water, you have to be the master of your destiny. So to speak.
Yeah.
We have to remember
I kid with people all the time about we get bored up there, you know. And I think after talking to you, because I never did it, I taught international but never flew it. You know, it did seem boring to you, but you don't have much time to get bored, do you?
I haven't read a magazine yet.
That's a
not
powerful
one.
statement. Yeah.
Not
And the other thing that that I wanted to have you talk about here was the fact that there are either 3 or 4 pilots right there. And this particular trip we're talking about is from
New York's John F. Kennedy to
Okay.
New Delhi, India.
Okay, and that's one of the longest.
7,400 nautical miles.
Jeez, yeah. And the thing you told me, which I was really impressed by, and it's hard for you to impress me with anything anymore, but when you talked to me about, you said, it's really nice having a team of 3 or 4 pilots up there.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast today about changing people's mind. We are less likely to change our minds individually than we are if we're in a group.
Couldn't agree more.
Because some people get the right answer, because somebody will always have a little bit different twist on it. And I just thought of that, you told me that. So let's go. We got some, Nat brought some slides with them, and this will absolutely, scare the hell out of you, or we'll try to put it in some kind of a context so that you can see that it wasn't to overwhelm you, but to show you the process that you go through when you do something like this. And this is, forgot about this.
Hey.
Nat became a grandfather for the first time yesterday, right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And oh my gosh, and there's a chip off the old block.
Okay.
Whoops, went backwards there.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
You're not showing it. We're still in gallery. You're not showing it, Ron.
Oh, sorry. Oh my
No,
gosh.
we gotta say the
Drop the ball. Okay, there we go. All right.
cute.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And what I was thinking is the last thing we need is another Nathaniel Fuqua, and now we have the fourth one. That's his
It
son.
wasn't my idea, honestly.
I
but
hear you.
They were
Yeah. Yeah.
sweet about
So
it.
there's the third, there's
Yeah.
the second, and there's the third, and then
Yeah.
in the picture there is the fourth. So
Yeah.
congratulations. Yeah.
Thank
Now,
you.
just for clarification, this is not while he was operating the airplane. This is a different.
Yeah, you didn't have to see if there's a doctor in the house there.
Did not
All right.
today.
All right.
very nice.
So
Congrats.
now we're going to look at some things in so we kind of did a flow for this from what happens up front and how Nat in the crew prepares, and then took it through to the landing there. And so I know you got an iPad. The good old days that I was familiar with, we didn't have iPads, and so now everything comes to you on that.
Yes,
You plug it in. It's all wireless, I suppose.
It is wireless. We can charge it on the flight deck if we need to, which
Okay.
is handy, of course. And we have all of our books in there, virtually 60, 70, 80 books in there that we can access at any time to get the information we need.
And you're accessing the Wi-Fi that's available to the passengers as well, or is it?
Domestically, you can, but in this particular operation, not. We
Yeah.
have everything self-contained in that. We download everything we need before we take off.
Okay.
So we have it with us all the way across.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just as a passenger creature comfort, most airplanes have Wi-Fi across the pond, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They do. The airplane has Wi-Fi, but it's transmitting movies and stuff like that.
Mostly onboard entertainment.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's what I did. But I was wondering if you can actually get texting, because I've had people text me over the North Atlantic coming back.
Domestically, you can do that,
Yeah.
but not
yeah.
internationally on this particular airplane.
Okay,
The Boeing
so
777.
so depending on how it's configured. and all
Right.
that. Okay, all right. So this is JFK to New Delhi.
New
That
Delhi.
was the trip, and
Mhm.
so this is the beginning. So what's happening right when you're at this phase?
We're evaluating our route, of course. In today's world, we're not going over the pole nor over Russia in today's environment. So
Okay.
typically we fly over.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
About an hour.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
flight attendants, and by the time you're
We
doing
lost
this,
you.
or
Hey, guys.
Absolutely.
well, let's go back to where.
Yeah.
We lost you
Oh,
for a
go
little bit.
ahead. Oh, okay. I think, are we back now?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
so
back.
quick-
It's just your internet connection says it's
Yeah.
unstable. So
I'm
Yeah.
gonna blank my screens to give you more bandwidth and just answer questions.
Yeah, well, I think it's my end more than anything, but that's okay. So,
I'll be
so
here.
let's bring it back. So you get to the airplane. What's the first thing that you do?
Mhm.
About how much in advance are you there at the airplane?
1 hour prior to push.
Okay.
And everyone's kind of in a rush, really, but
Yeah.
I introduced myself as come see, come saw if they're available.
Sure.
And then we rush to the cockpit and get loaded up, and then we meet with the flight attendants immediately to discuss turbulence mostly.
And how many flight attendants? We were laughing.
We
about
got
that.
13 on this.
So you're like the mayor of a small city.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a busy time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll get to the hotel on the other end and I'll see a flight attendant. I go, were you on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
It happens.
like dads with big families. You know, you run the family. So anyway, okay. Whoops, did
Go
I
buy another
lose?
birthday present.
Lost it. Okay. Are the slides back up?
No,
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 So
just the
we-
4 of us.
just the 4 of us. Okay.
Right,
So we
correct.
lost that when it something clicked off. So we'll try it again. Nothing like technology. If I can get where.
And
now
I just wanna say that we do have a question that I'm gonna let you ask
Yeah, go
or
ahead.
answer in context, though. It's about where do you go over water if you have an emergency? So maybe Nat, if you can at some point, as you kind of go through this whole process with us, because there is water involved that you were flying over. So maybe you can just in that context, for example, let us
Yeah,
know.
and we're
what would
gonna
happen.
cover that. And
Mhm.
in addition to that, we're going to talk about when you're not over water and you have an emergency. Okay. So, okay, now can you see the slides?
Yes, Yep.
Okay, cool.
preparation.
Yes.
Okay, so you give the briefing to everybody, you
Mhm.
kind of get them together and all that, and then you
Mhm.
got 4 pilots, and then you guys go do your specialized stuff, right?
Yeah.
And is there a job for everybody when you got 2 extra pilots? So
Absolutely.
what's everybody doing?
The second first officer is walking around the airplane. They
Okay.
call him the FB. He
Okay.
walks around the airplane. The relief captain, which is what I did the first time, you just assist the captain whatever he needs. So typically I'll be looking at the logbook, making sure it's ready to go, checking oxygens, and basically just answering his beck and call on whatever he needs. at the moment.
Okay,
The
okay,
first officer is preparing the computers for takeoff and the performance analysis for that particular takeoff. And so it's kind of a nuts and bolts situation where you're just
Yeah.
checking equipment
okay,
typically. And then when everybody's done checking their equipment, we get together and we talk about our gotchas for the flight, typically known as a threat briefing. We talk about possible threats for the flight and what everyone's experienced in the past in that regard, and if there's any gotchas that we should be aware of.
okay. So you still got to make sure the airplane isn't overgrossed,
Mhm.
that's got the right performance,
Mhm.
meets all the B1 criteria and stuff like
Of
that, right?
course. of
Okay,
course.
okay. And then, let's see what we got here. Okay, and then what are all these things on the screen here?
So we have various ways we can research the flight in different facets of the flight. And this is a slide offering us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kind of books to go into to evaluate procedures we need for various stages of the flight. In this particular part, they talk about aircraft with supplemental oxygen and the what we call the mountainous terrain continuous.
Because you're going to go over some pretty tall piles of dirt.
Indeed. Yes. So that said, should we have an emergency of any kind over water or over the mountains, we always have a plan with the airport we're going to divert to and how we're going to go about doing it.
And that's a fluid thing, right?
Absolutely, it changes by
right.
the hour.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're constantly evaluating those things. So if you have a medical emergency, it'll be a different situation than losing an engine or having a depressurization. So
do you still have access to MedLink or one of the contractors?
physician on call. yes.
Physician on call,
Yeah.
okay.
And we can, the flight attendants can call them directly.
now from the satellite with satellite phones.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're out there and you're wondering about, your hubby having a heart attack and you're not ready to push him aside and get the insurance there, we do have a mechanism on board the airplane where the flight attendant used to be, we had to go through the pilot, had to do a messy phone patch, air-to-air radio to a landline and all that. Now the flight attendants can call directly, which eliminates all the hassle of with the security, especially talking to the pilots and coordinating. And the first thing they're going to do is basically call, well, Diane, first thing you guys do is like solicit a medical person, right?
Yes, absolutely. We usually go on the PA system and request if there's any medical personnel on board. And whenever I've had to do that, there's always been 2 or 3 people at the very least.
Yeah. Okay. So that's medical problems with the diverting, or if you have other problems. And what would be some of the, or should we wait on that on the depressurization maybe, because that's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. All right. And okay. And here's so this is still pre-departure, and this is a India reference guide. So what's that about?
Specifically tailored for the flight to India from New York. And it gives us a checklist essentially to make sure we've got every nitnoid detail covered. And all 4 of us look at every item here. We check it off physically. We back each other up to make sure we're all covered and it's done. And that is specifically tailored for this flight. And that is only 1 page of 16.
Yeah.
So we page through it as the flight progresses to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you're not kidding, right? I mean, you really do go through this and pay attention.
You have to.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not like, don't worry about that. And it was good yesterday or something like that. And that's why when people, I don't think people have a grasp because they're sitting in the back. The longer the flight, the more they think they're going to get worried. Right. But you don't have those times up there. You're constantly coming up with ideas. That's why you don't get afraid, because you're not thinking in terms of fear. You're thinking, okay, this is what we do. Yeah. Okay.
And just how to operate the airplane itself.
And I just highlight there, you can see the depressurization routes. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. And then volcanic ash. That's always a concern right around the world.
Absolutely.
And so now we're talking, it's kind of like when I was in combat in Vietnam, you get an intelligence report. Literally nowadays with the war in the Ukraine, you'll get some kind of information about what the latest is on that, I imagine. And then the volcanic ash and stuff like that is again more intelligence. What are they, what's going on out there in the airspace right now. Okay, so
Nan, I won't jam you up. I'm just legitimately curious. Do you generally dispatch under the 120-minute rule if you're going over the Atlantic, or is that not true?
Yes, absolutely.
You do. That's generally true. Okay.
Yes.
did I skip that?
We'll be on the North Atlantic tracks, which requires ETOPS rules.
Yeah. And can we say they're like highways in the sky?
Absolutely.
And the North Atlantic, because there's so many airplanes that operate between the North America and Europe, or transiting that they every morning they build a bunch of routes just to facilitate the flow. And
they're based on winds.
Right.
So each company, each airplane can catch the tailwinds and avoid the headwinds right away.
Yeah.
Typically, to catch the tailwinds, you go across the Atlantic itself down towards the south. To get around the headwinds, you come up over the North Pole-ish area, not quite that north.
And speaking directly to that person that had the question, what if I'm over the water? What is the 120-minute rule in a nutshell?
Well, we just have to be able to nurse the airplane on a single engine within 2 hours to an airport.
Okay.
It's just that we have to stay within 2 hours of an airport. Okay. So in theory, you could lose an engine, fly for 2 hours, and one engine to your alternate.
Got it. And the thing, and if you're like me, I didn't pay that close of attention to geography until I started teaching international. You realize there are some places in the Atlantic that you never knew about, right? That off the coast of Spain.
Plenty of them, but you probably wouldn't go there.
No. I mean, it's the last resort.
Yeah. And that said, we do have a 180-minute rule, and we also have a 207-minute rule for a special leg to Asia to get to Russia if we need
Right.
to. 207 minutes,
And-
honestly.
And how do we know that, you know, or what's the insurance that we have to know that we can do that in 120 or 180 or 207? What special do we have to do on an airplane?
Well, we get weather reports for winds. Winds aloft are a big deal on long flights.
Yeah.
We check the winds a bunch, so we know which way they're blowing and what would be the best route to get where we want to go.
Yeah. And then how about the equipment?
In terms of a single engine,
Yeah, well, the equipment has to be, I won't say uprated, but it has to be more reliable. I'll use that term.
yeah, we have 10 generators on a 777 that
Jeez.
can power.
Each one could power a small city or a small
Exactly,
subdivision.
exactly.
Right?
Did you
Yeah,
say
it has-
10 generators, Nat?
10 generators, Nat.
That's, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's amazing.
That is amazing.
It is so redundant,
Yeah.
just like me. Sometimes I'm just redundant. So that said, I feel really, really safe. I've never even lost one of them in a route, which is amazing. So-
Okay. All right. So we were talking about a profile coming down. So talk about why you
So
put
this
this
is
slide here.
actually kind of a worst case scenario. They call it the 22-minute profile. In theory, if the airplane had a depressurization, in a worst case scenario, in mountainous terrain, we would descend to 29,000 feet initially, which would keep us safe in all areas of the world for 6 minutes.
Okay.
And that would give us enough time to maneuver to where we needed to go, essentially of valleys that are mapped out to the mile on our maps that we know directly to go right to for 25,000 feet for 20 minutes, if we even need that,
Right,
which
right.
we wouldn't.
Right.
And then down to 10,000 feet where people can breathe.
So you have to know
Mhm,
to not run into some pile of dirt out there in the mountains and stuff.
mhm.
And you have to know horizontally where to navigate as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's all mapped out to the mile.
Yeah.
And we are monitoring that situation as we roll through the mountains, specifically the Himalayas. Definitely have my attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful. It's amazing seeing
Yeah.
the Himalayas. There's
And
Nat,
it's
tell
again,
everybody where
it's
Nat,
Go ahead.
tell everybody where the 22 minutes comes from.
well, the 22-minute profile, it has to do with the amount of oxygen available to our people in the back of the airplane, to everybody actually.
because the domestic, it's like 10, right?
Right,
But
exactly.
But
Right,
is it on all the wide bodies or anything over water?
The
Or
300
extended heat
miles.
times. Oh,
the
300
miles. And
Okay.
it's only for the mountainous terrain.
Okay.
So that we have extra oxygen available
Got it.
in
Okay.
those situations.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And so this just, I think you were just showing, this is some of the data that you have in front of you to look at the horizontal nav.
Yeah, those circles you see, that's when we're inside those circles, we're gonna, if we need to do a high dive, as we call it, a depressurization and a descent, immediate emergency descent, we will follow those little stars to the airports that are on that map that are hard to see from this slide, but that
Yeah.
is a very detailed depiction. So we descend at flight level 290, it's called an initial escape altitude.
Okay. IEA is initial escape altitude. So again,
Yeah.
anybody who's watching this out there, this is the kind of stuff, he didn't learn this overnight either. I mean, you don't just, get some holy water and then they put you out on the line with somebody.
Mm,
You have to go through international training and on top of all the other flight crew training that
Mhm.
you've had. And I'm guessing that you can't have all rookies on the flight either, right? Got to have
Correct.
people that have done that before.
Yes, absolutely. At least one.
Yeah. And I remember you telling me it's nice the first time you go to fly with somebody who's got some experience
Yeah.
to keep you
Yeah.
from getting
Yeah.
spooked and stuff. Talk about an escape route. I mean, you've already touched on it a little bit, but this is
Mhm.
just another slide.
Mm,
Yeah.
It's a blow up of the same slide. very
Okay.
much.
Okay. So here we are. Now we're talking about what, Matt?
Okay, so obviously that's just a map of Europe and part of Asia. And the red areas are closed airspace that we must stay out of. So obviously we have Ukraine, there's Belarus and Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. So we we are flight planned around all that airspace, and we're uber aware of it, and we never go near it.
Yeah, okay.
Just to make sure. That's our flight plan across the Atlantic, the North
With
Atlantic.
JFK over here on
Uh-huh.
the left.
Yes.
And then these are points, and how do you navigate? How do you know where the hell you are out there?
You don't. You just guess. It's nighttime, you know.
Yeah. Basically GPS, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have 10 GPSs on our 10
10 GPSs.
10 antennas on our plane to track 10 different
Satellites.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. And then this is continuing on the route.
Western Europe.
Jesus, yeah.
And down through Eastern Europe and across Turkey.
And this is where you get into the high terrain down in here.
Well, there is some down in there. There's Mount Ararat in
Oh, yeah.
Turkey at 20,000 feet. Kind of pops up.
Yeah.
And then you get into, I believe it's Uzbekistan, and then that's Afghanistan to the left.
Okay.
And we make that hard right turn down.
Oh, yeah, right here.
Yeah, to stay in airspace that's friendly.
Oh, and then you got to kind of
Mhm.
carve around here, don't you? Oh,
And that's
wow.
a no-fly zone on the right there, that big dark area. We're not
Oh,
allowed
right
to-
here?
Yeah, all that whole area, not
Wow.
allowed in any circumstances to fly.
Yeah.
It's too high. We don't have enough oxygen to
So it's
support that.
a no-fly zone because of limitations on the performance of the airplane and stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
somebody going to shoot you down.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Correct.
all right,
That's never a worry, to be honest.
all right. And now here you're coming. This is
That's southbound through that same area. So
Okay.
this, if you see Jerry +1, that's where we have decided that that's the area, the spot where we decide if we lose an engine or depressurize to go to a certain airport. We go past that spot, we go to the next airport that
Okay.
we've selected.
okay.
So it's down to the mile.
And that's key. I mean, and to me, the worst thing that I always feared before I became a pilot is how do you know what to do when?
Mhm.
You know, whether it's manipulating which switches in the cockpit or whether it's where do I go if I have a problem.
Mhm.
And that's a big part of aviation in general, but particularly international, where you've got such a complex route,
Mhm.
complex things to
Mhm.
follow and stuff. So you need to have more planning and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And then now you're getting ready to land
Mhm.
at Delhi.
And this is basically a map of the airport, a top view of the map. You can see there's 3 runways with 1 more under construction. They have very long runways, which is handy.
Yeah, 14,500, 12,500, and
Yeah.
the little guy is
Yeah.
is just almost 2 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's generally pretty hazy in the area. They burn their trash.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like Mexico City.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same type of
Yeah.
setup.
So restrictions to visibility is probably the most common thing that you would have
Hazy.
down there. Yeah.
Smoke.
Do they get much weather, fog and stuff like that, or?
In the wintertime, they do
In the
get
wintertime,
fog, and
yeah.
in the summer, they get thunderstorms.
Yeah.
We went through some thunderstorms to get there last week.
And does this have automated landing?
Absolutely.
So you can land it, let George do it. Matter of fact,
That's
George
right.
has to do it if the visibility is below certain.
That-
Ron, you would have busted me on that. What's George?
Oh,
flight-
George who?
that's
autopilot?
that's the autopilot. If you were born in 1947 and watched 1935 movies about aviation and flying, that's
Okay, I'm
what they
just
call
saying, you would have busted me on that.
it.
What if there's no
Right.
pilot named George? Then what do you do? Yeah.
Yeah. So then here is just talking about the weather, getting ready for the approach and stuff, going in there, more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's similar to Phoenix in some ways.
Yeah.
It's got monsoons and it's got fog a few days in the winter, and it's hot right now over there for sure, and a little bit humid for sure. You can see how it comes up from the Bay of Bengal and with the humidity.
Okay, well,
Mhm.
we'll just break this off right here. And what's the loads like? Were they big
Almost
loads?
all the way full every load,
Jeez.
honest. Yeah, I'm amazed. A lot of people want to go to India. A lot of people.
And this is a daily flight
Daily flight.
for one airline. So,
One-
I mean, there's other airlines making the
Yeah.
same trek and
yeah,
stuff.
we
Yeah.
Well,
usually-
you're full coming out of there too every time? You're full coming back?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually about 20 open seats, I'd
Yeah.
say at the most.
And
Wow.
COVID, what's the latest on COVID? Do you have to be tested before you come back? No?
Not that I know of.
No.
No. And matter of fact, we don't even wear a mask in the airport there. Sometimes they'll ask you to wear one.
Yeah.
It's pretty loose.
Yeah.
The passengers do. Most of them do.
Yeah,
They're just
I've
all-
noticed, yeah. Mexico, one day I came in, I was leaving in 2 hours. I came in, no mask, went around, walked in the front door to go through, and they said, "Where's your mask?" I thought, "You talk to those guys on the other side of that wall over there." You know, it was kind of funny, but a lot. It's still, I'd say about a third to half the people in the airplane were still wearing masks.
That's about right.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. Anything that any other questions or anything, Dieter, out there that anybody's got, or Diane, or comments?
Well, there was a good question that's perfect for maybe just not maybe what would you recommend that so we heard that you guys have a lot to do, but for us as passengers, what would you recommend that we do when we're you're flying over long stretches of water, other than looking at this, screen in front of us that's showing us the water. So we had a couple of questions of what can passengers do other than the entertainment system, while you go over the water, for example. So I was just curious if you had any suggestions.
Sometimes I'll be deadheading in the back doing that, and I will look at geography for the area we're over and the history of it all and the geographical setup, populations, what the history is for the land that we're going over, what's interesting about it.
Yeah.
Obviously try to get as many naps in as possible. That really helps a lot with my jet lag big time.
Yeah.
Napping is a
Actually, that's a great suggestion to learn more about the actual space that you are traversing while you're, that's awesome. Love that.
When I first started flying with the original Frontier, we had a lot of guys that had flown those same routes over time, and we had a lot of the Oregon Trail coming from the Midwest stuff, and there were guys that knew that, and there was a captain, airline pilot, that made a book with the maps on it, regular land maps, but he superimposed the jetways on it, and he had had legends on there about landmarks there, like the Oregon Trail and significant things. So there's probably something like that, but that's a good idea for people just to appreciate the terrain and the history of the area they're going.
Do it myself, really. It's interesting. It's good education.
Yeah, and if you're going to be a passenger, do you try to stay up so you'll be sleepy? Or you just kind of go with the flow?
I definitely go with the flow. I definitely nap every chance I get, no matter what.
But we're talking about normal nap, right?
Even when I'm not in the cockpit, I try.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, I tell people I never make it to takeoff without falling asleep. But, except I do when I'm flying. I can
obviously reading is something that's interesting to me.
Yeah,
it'll take me out of where I'm at least for a little while.
Sure.
And then sometimes it makes me a little bit drowsy, so that helps with the nap.
Yeah. And you can. I mean, it's a big airplane, so you got a couple aisles. You can get up and walk around a little bit too, right? As long as the seatbelt signs.
There's a long way, 200 feet to the back of that airplane.
200 feet,
and then some. 250.
Almost a football field.
Yeah. And back again. Yeah, there's quite the circus going on back there sometimes.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And you eat probably twice, right? 2 meals or something?
Usually 3, actually. Yeah. Plus snacks. Yeah. Yeah, they feed us a bunch. We have 2 3-hour and 40-minute breaks typically.
Right. You divide that up for crew rest and stuff. And where do you take your breaks at then?
So we have a special crew compartment we call the condo upstairs. You go up these little spiral stairs to a room that, as you look back on the airplane, there's 2 first-class seats with entertainment, and then 2 kind of tubular structures where you can sleep.
So you crawl in a tube.
Yeah.
If you got claustrophobia, you're kind of screwed, right?
Probably.
But I bet you it doesn't bother you, man.
And it's got a curtain. You can really black it out nice. Wear earplugs, and it has phones in there that they call and wake you up. If you want. And blankets and pillows, and honestly, we all strip down to our skivvies or our shorts or our sweats and get cozy for 3.5 hours.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And typically we'll have a meal before that to help us get a little bit drowsy.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you go.
Yeah.
And, or if you're not tired, maybe watch something on Netflix or something to take your mind away.
And if you got four pilots
Mm-hmm.
on the flight deck, they have to be there on takeoff and on landing?
Yes.
So nobody can be in the bunk when you're landing and taking off.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's great because we all contribute to what's going on at the time with the air traffic control situation, the airplane situation, or anything that needs attention.
Okay.
It's wonderful because I've got a lot of help, which is wonderful. Typically with a two-man crew, it's the two of you,
Yeah.
and the dynamic can be different.
Yeah. Remember when the FAA certified the 737, which is the first two pilot crew, the caveat was, it's the way it's automated everything, two is plenty, except if you have a problem. And that's, so to me, it's really struck me when you said, the 4 people, and it's really a gift to have a
It's
team
wonderful.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's working really hard.
Yeah.
You have, it's just, sometimes people can get a little bit lazy here and there. In the back in the days with the domestic, and you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5 legs a day, and
Yeah.
maybe something slips through the crack, or it's just a little different. But with this operation, there's 4 people. We're going to fly one flight.
Right.
Everybody works really, really hard
Yeah.
to do the best job they can do to help each other and make the team win.
I could see why domestic and would become more routine than doing that,
Yes.
because there's enough new stuff. You
Every
wouldn't
flight
have
is
time.
new. It
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
new. It really
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that keeps human beings and their attention span going. So
Mhm.
you're not kidding us. You really don't get scared.
Not today, but tomorrow's a new day. You
Yeah,
never
yeah.
know.
Turbulence. Have you
Yeah.
ever had a
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we have this wonderful iPad that gives us updates on, really accurate updates on turbulence, where it is, how high it is, how low it is, how vicious it might be or might not be, how long it might last. So we have heads up and all that. So we do our best, so obviously, to move around it, above it, below it. And that's a big part of our briefing with the flight attendants straight away.
Okay.
They want to know when it's coming,
Yeah.
and how long it's, how vicious it might be, and how long it's going to last.
And I can hear our followers saying, we do too.
Yeah.
And they want to
Absolutely.
know how long it might last.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to the conclusion, even if you don't know, make something up. Because the brain could rally around something, and they're less likely to catch it, it went 2 minutes over, than they are if they didn't have some expectation that it would quit.
I've made some few apologetic PAs to the
Yeah,
passengers
yeah.
when I told them we were going to get 5 to 10 minutes. And honestly, coming out of Delhi, we had 2.5 hours almost straight of light to occasional moderate turbulence that we just could not avoid. We were
Yeah,
too heavy
right.
to climb over it, and we tried our best, and we get about 5 minutes of smooth air, and then it would start again.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were in an area where it was hard to avoid.
And I tell people
Just
it's
about.
really annoying more than it's not a threat.
No, it's not a threat at all. It's very annoying, but it's very fatiguing.
Yeah.
It's worrisome for the people in the back because they're not in control, of course, but it's not worrisome for us. I do concern myself with how they're doing back there. I mean, they can't eat if we have too much turbulence. They can't get up and go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Maybe there's a little lady who sees the seatbelt sign on and won't get up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And is in some serious pain. So
Yeah,
I do try to turn it off as much as I can.
yeah, yeah. And then people won't say, well, they're never going to turn it on. Well, I'm going to get up anyway, or less
We have
likely to-
those, of course.
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
course. So,
The one thing that I wanted to kind of close with that is that I tell all the people, the best thing you can do, certainly domestic, is to identify yourself as having a medical condition that gives them a special op to get on early so they don't get jostled if they get claustrophobia, stuff like that,
Mhm.
and to ask to meet the pilots. Would there be a possibility they would meet you? You'd have time to meet with them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So-
We make the time for that.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody
Yeah.
has a request,
And Craig, you got 4 people. Somebody's free.
Yeah, plenty of time. We just need to make room in the cockpit.
Yeah, right, right.
Typically. So
Yeah.
I was RC when we did that. So I just ran into the back galley and got the kids and brought them up and then
Cool.
went back to the galley and let them.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I call it training your pilots, telling me you need information and reminding you that they like to hear that. So anyway,
Absolutely.
thanks, dude. It's really, I'm envious and I'm also so happy for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Nat. Great to see you.
Thank you.
That
Yeah.
was awesome.
This is-
And everybody, I apologize. I was trying to answer questions as fast and furiously as I could. And I think I answered most of them, but the iPad's a little tight, so I might have sent them to the wrong person. So everybody call everybody else tonight and you should be able to straighten it all out.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think that was good. There were a couple more questions, but that's, I just want to say thank you to you as well, Nat, because, you know, you really kind of like, for those of us, you took us through a flight kind of like from your perspective. And I just loved flying with you there through it. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
wonderful.
Fun.
Thanks, Dieter.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
And for everybody out there, Dieter and I were talking this morning, we want to make a special announcement about the 201. You know, this ain't your grandma's, this ain't Orville and Wilbur's 201 class anymore. We no longer do it live, we do it online. And the beauty of that is now we are finding ways to fly in other cities other than Phoenix and LA. And if you are a member of the 201, first of all, we highly recommend you do that, because it isn't just about getting on the next flight. It's about getting on the next flight with some skills and not getting to your destination and then lamenting your flight home. Okay, we want you to make the whole trip with a minimum of anxiety, and we want you to stay current so you don't relapse and then you got to start all over again. So that's the best reason we can give you is fear flying, and overcoming it is a process. And with that, also, if you're a member of the 201 online course, you will find a section in there right in the introduction block right up front that you can make your your city known that you would like to fly out of, if we can put a class together. And the way we've structured the tuitions and stuff now, so we can go out and fly with as few as 4 or 5 people, and I will do that. I will do that. And so if you haven't, you're still interested, there's still time to sign up for the Clear for Takeoff 301 class on June 11th out of Burbank. We're going from Burbank to Sacramento and back. And if you want to do that, please sign up, and we're looking forward to all the people that are going to make that trip with us again. But
I
do
put
the
I
201.
put the link in the chat
Okay.
for that as well. And so if you need more information, you can get it through that link.
Okay, so thanks again, dude. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Yeah, and thanks to you guys, Diane and Eric and Dieter, and thanks to all of you, because if you're not here, we talk to ourselves, which we do anyway, but it's kind of like giving us a license. So anyway, we'll come back next week for another episode of Clear for Takeoff, or the what are we called name? Fearless Flight live every week. So thanks a lot and have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
You guys.